Welcome, welcome. Happy New Year. I'm so excited to be here with you. We are maximizing in 25, and I'm so excited to be here. And it's your life. Own it. This segment of the Own It magazine and publishing company focuses on self development, really about self. And as I always say, once you become aware of yourself, the different things that make you tick you off, and really make you get excited about life or disappointed in life, will lead you to a place of self development. And self development is just saying, hey, I just want to be a better person. I want to show up better in life for myself. And that leads you to self mastery, which helps you to know how to navigate through this thing called life, the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, and all the things in between. And so, taking center stage and owning it with me, without further ado, is my team. Palmer.
How are you?
And Jacqueline Lulu Brown is in the house. And this month, the month of January, we're always focusing on starting our year off right. And the most important thing about that is just really getting in tune with yourself. We talk about at the end of the year, projecting into the coming year. And so you should have already done that work. You should have already done the work of what I'm going to do for the coming year. And if you haven't, you still have time. Make that the first thing on your agenda is, what do I want to 25. And then, you got to get into that quiet space. I know Teresa talks about it a lot. Getting into that quiet space, meditation, getting in tune with yourself, shutting out all the other noise so that you're able to focus and get clarity on what it is that you want out of this year. So Own It has a theme. It has a theme of topics throughout the year. And in that theme, we talk about different leadership styles. Yourself, I'm getting a little feedback. So we're talking. So we start now. All of our writers in the Own It magazine don't have to write to this. They have the right to write to whatever their agenda is within the magazine. However, the main focus, spinning off from the editor, is focusing on leadership in this particular arena. It's your life. Own It is about leadership of self, right? How are you leading effectively yourself? You've heard me over the years talk about a CEO mindset. CEOs think on a very high level, and if you want to really show up in your life, you got to start thinking like that. You got to think on a high level. You have to be strategic and intentional, and that starts with knowing thyself first. You got to know who you are. So this month we've talked about the archetypes and identities of your own self-leadership. What kind of leader are you? What leadership type? And there are many approaches and titles to. I find myself to be a combination of different leadership styles. You may find yourself to be a combination of, and most people are, a combination of leadership styles. And it's also too, and how are you showing up in any particular situation? That's when it becomes complex, because you're not always going to be in this particular leadership type, style, or effect. And so we did really do these topics so that you become more conscious of how, corporate terminology also needs to be our own personal terminology. And I think that Lulu and I agree on that, because we talk about the SWOT analysis. We talk about, leadership styles and things like that. And what we have a tendency to do is what we learn in the workplace, we push off and we just look at it as work. But it's really models and prototypes for us to really begin to be awakened to how we are actually showing up. So if you don't have a job title that has leader in it, does not mean that you're not a leader. We're all leaders because someone is following us. They're not telling us that they're following us. They're I don't want to say embarrassed or ashamed, but too humble. They don't want to say to you that they're following you. Many of you have experienced, I hear it over and over again, how people will inbox you privately to tell you how you've impacted them by how you're showing up in your life. They'll message you privately because it is personal. It's highly personal. And so a lot of times we don't think we're leaders. We think that because we don't have that leadership title or no one's calling us a leader, that we're leaders, but you are a leader. And the minute that you really begin to become awakened to that concept of yourself is the minute that you'll start showing up in life differently. You'll be showing up in life differently because your accountability level, who you're responsible to, and how you're responsible for showing up in your life becomes different. It becomes a more high value position in your life. If it was. And so I've done enough as the editor in chief of Own It magazine and publishing talking. And I want to let Teresa share her perspective. She writes for the Own It magazine as a contributing writer. She offers from her perspective professional background and her expertise and her position on what she's experienced. And Lulu Brown is also a contributing writer. She's one of our senior editors for Lifestyles and Leisure Living. And so we're going to start with Teresa. Teresa, you know, girl, you're always the first one. So
I always like being the first, so that's okay. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. When we talk about leadership, a lot of it starts with us. So if we're not comfortable with ourselves, then we can't lead. And an example of that would be someone who's not self-confident or self-aware has difficulty leading because they don't know who they are. So it always starts within. And I think that's a piece that we kind of miss. Not only does it start within, but it starts with our heart, what we feel, who we are, how we act, how we react to things, and how we handle our emotions. So it's very important to be self-aware, to know who you are, how you are, what you are. And also, why do you want to lead people? What is it in you that has inspired you to become a leader? Do you like the glory of being a leader? Do you like the fact that you're helping other people achieve something? Or have you just fallen into a leadership position and as you're going along, you're learning about how to become a leader? But I always tell people, regardless of what it is, whether it be health, life, anything, it's all intertwined, that if you lead with your heart and have a balance between your heart, your feelings, and your logic, which is your mind, that's when you're able to make the best decisions and lead your best life.
Very well said, Teresa. Thank you. Lulu? We can't hear you. Can you hear her? I can't hear. No. And we heard you fine before. Yeah, and you said it while she's getting her sound together. Teresa, you hit it right on the nail in regards to balance, is we need to bring a healthy balance to that. No, we need to bring a healthy balance from that because a lot of times we're shunned to speak from our heart, right? That's considered a sign of weakness. And I think that that's where people get into a little bit of a struggle in authenticity because you don't know yourself. And then you have all these external influences that are saying to you, you know, don't speak from your heart, speak from your heart, be a charismatic leader, don't be a charismatic leader. And so we get a little jumbled up, right? As to what do we do? And that's why this piece right here about self-development is so critically important for us to know thyself so we trust our instincts. And I believe that in a few of our shows, talked about instincts. We talked about trusting yourself. So elaborate a little bit while we're waiting for Lulu. Elaborate a little bit about how can they find that balance. I know that I'm a very passionate person. And so because I'm a very passionate person, I also have to bring that balance in of logic and reasoning, right? And also to know that about myself, that I can be very, very passionate and that I need to kind of regulate. So talk about how do they based on your practices and things like that? How do they get to that place of bringing that healthy balance and really, really learning how to authentically trust themselves?
Right. I think it's so important that we start within ourselves. And like you said, you're a passionate person, and that's fine. But with leadership, you can't always wear your heart on your sleeve. So you have to maintain a balance, and you have to look at yourself and you have to say, what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses? Where do I excel? Okay, I excel perhaps in passion. What is my weakness? How could I develop that passion in a healthy way so that I could use that passion to inspire others and help them on their journey through leadership?
Yeah, and one thing that I've learned, and I try my best to teach and coach other people, is being present in the moment, right? So
Right.
as a leader, we can get really, really heated. We can really, really get excited. Stress, depending on your level of leadership, stress can be very, very, like it can be very, very demanding. Knowing yourself and why this is so important is that even in the midst of crisis, when you know yourself, you can, right in front of an entire audience, regulate yourself. I've done it. That's how I could tell you. I could tell you, you could talk yourself off of a cliff because I've done it right in front of an audience without them even knowing what's going on internally, that you can do it. And that's why this is such a critically important topic. It's not, oh, wow, it's your life, own it. No, I'm being very serious about this is your life. You better own it because the clock is ticking. I remember saying, and I had a meeting this morning, I remember saying last year, this year is going to wrap around. And then next thing you know, here we are. It's 2025. And it feels like I just said that yesterday. We were at the top of December, and I kept saying to everybody, I'm going to be busy. Do not talk to me. Right. And before you know it, that month was gone. December was gone like that. So it's really a time is of the essence, not with anxiety or anxiousness, but time is of the essence in the sense of sobriety, that you need to get sober about what it is that you want to do and how you, and then also too sober about the reality that this is going to bring challenges. And how are you going to navigate through those challenges? You navigate through those challenges by knowing thyself and self leadership and understanding the role of leadership, the impact, the influence, and the behavior of leadership. So that's why this is so important for us to really, really dive into why and really make this audience understand this is important to awaken to thyself, especially now in a time of, Teresa, you talk about chaos. In a time of chaos, what keeps it and found it is clarity within thyself, right? And knowing how to navigate, knowing that chaos is around us, but we don't have to succumb to the chaos. And so, Lulu, now that you're back online, you got some sound there. We want to hear from you. So I don't want to take up too much time. We want to hear from you. So share with us your position on the leadership styles and really getting to know them. And there's different leadership styles. So don't
Yes,
get caught up in one group of categorized leadership styles.
absolutely. Well, welcome to the new year, everyone. Thank you, Marisa, Teresa, for us always being here. Teresa said something that was really key around knowing yourself. And one of the things that will help you know and get to know what type of leader, because you're absolutely right, the type of leader we are, and some of us are very multifaceted. I know Marisa and I both share that. I'll say that personality in common, but it's really knowing who you are at your core, reflecting on your core values. When you do that, that helps you really dial down to or dial up to who you are as a leader. You talked about strengths, growth areas, weaknesses, defining why you're even here, what matters, having a clear purpose that fuels your motivation and your focus. All of these play into the building blocks of knowing who you are as a leader, but also understanding how that leadership aligns with who you are at your core. So you talked about there's different leadership styles. Absolutely. There's the visionary. That's the person that's inspiring others with clear, compelling future vision. They focus on the long-term goals and the innovation that adds value. Those are your typically CEOs. But that doesn't mean that you and I don't have those qualities. And then there's a servant leader. Servant leaders are very different. And depending on what your objectives are, what you're trying to accomplish, here's where it's important to know, are you a servant leader? Because there are some things about the servant leader that are a little different. Servant leaders prioritize the needs of others, creating the empowering environment where individuals thrive. You know, when you think of that RACI chart, and I know a lot of our folks out there working and putting together objectives for this year understand who's responsible, who's accountable, who do you need to inform. At the end of the day, who carries the weight of it? Then there's the operator executor. Those are leaders. Marisa, you made a clear statement here where everyone is a leader. It's just knowing what type of leader you are. You don't have to be the CEO to be the leader. You can actually be the operator, the executor. That's the person that's focusing on getting things done efficiently and effectively. But guess what?
And Lulu, and that's your supervisors, your managers, your
Yes,
team leads. These are the ones who are blindsided because they don't have leader in their title. And so I
exactly.
digress.
Exactly. Nope, that's okay. That's a very important point. The other piece is that one of the key strengths of the operator and the executor as a leader is that they're reliable. The meeting deadlines are critical to them, the tactical execution. So again, we don't want to play these down low and say, well, just because they don't have that title. Then there's always a coach sitting in leadership. That's the person that's given the team the development skills and the insights that they need. Then don't forget, leaders, you have catalysts. Well, who's that? That's the person that thrives on driving change and challenging the status quo. This is an area that Marisa and I both fall into. We are catalysts. We challenge the status quo. We are positive deviants. So there's this big spectrum of leadership. And in today, where we are, it's really important for us to understand who we are at the end of everything that I just described. And that's not all. I just gave you a couple of leadership types. There's more. We don't have enough time to do it all. That's probably a workshop, a whole day. But to give you a little bit here now, think about those archetypes that I just mentioned. And then think about how do they align with who you are at your core? Because that's where your success is going to come in.
And so I wanted perspective. I want to tap into why is this important to the person. So we
Mm.
got a little into the organizational side and things like that. Teresa's back with us. We got into a little bit of the organizational side, the business side, but why is it so important to the individual? And so, and then you tapped into what is on my always on my heart is supervisors, managers, and team leads. The
Mhm.
reason why these are so important to me and always on my heart is because that's the group of leader is always overlooked. We look at directors, we look at we even look at we look at some level of management up. But we don't look at supervisors and we don't look at the and they're the ones when we're looking at it from the organizational perspective, they're the ones who are really running the company. They are the heartbeat of the company. They are the thrive of the company, and they are the most neglected in regards to support. I know they have a very low POS, which is perceived organizational support. They have a not consciously but subconsciously, because they feel like their title doesn't warrant them to have that level of support. But I digress back to what we're here to talk about on Mondays, and it's about the person. Why is understanding leadership style, why is it so important for the individual to understand leadership style? You know, what do they have to do with leadership style? So Teresa, I want to charge you with that. Why? Because I know I want to hear what you guys have to say, and I want us to really with the audience why they need to understand leadership styles.
I think it's important to understand leadership styles because you need to know where a person is coming from so that you know how to deal with that person. And it's important when you look at leadership styles to know your own leadership style. How do you handle things? And you had talked earlier about when you're faced with a situation, about how to get yourself together in the midst of chaos. And I think that's so very important because that's where stress becomes an ally of ours, where we could use the stress of the particular situation to enhance and improve. And the way we do that is to get ourselves together is the best thing to do is just take a deep breath. Once you take a deep breath, an inhale and an exhale, you automatically turn off the stress hormones. And once you do that, you could think clearly. So that's really the first step in getting yourself together. And the second step in getting yourself together is knowing that it's not about you. It's dealing with others and dealing with a situation. So it doesn't become about us, it becomes about them, and it becomes about all of us. And then it's easier for us to tap into our ability to want to help people. And that's something that is really ingrained in us, our willingness and our wanting to help other people. So if we could take the focus off of ourselves instead of, oh my goodness, I've got this situation, why is this happening to me? It's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And put the emphasis on, how can I use this situation right now to help everybody and to make this a better situation? And that's really what chaos is.
Awesome.
It's really, chaos is all energy, and it's taking that energy and it's using it for something positive. So I hope I did answer the question.
Yes, it's your perspective. I want to just give a shout out to Denise Johnson, who's listening in. She's making a lot of comments here in the thread. So Denise, we just want to give you a shout out. Thank you so much for chiming in. It's always nice to hear from our audience because we want to know. This is about you guys, just like Teresa said. We already know this information for ourselves. What we want to do is convey it to others, to encourage them, to inspire them, to show up for themselves. And so, Lulu, you're up. Why is this? Why should individuals, people, really look into leadership styles and leadership types and identify with them?
Oh, wow. Understanding leadership styles. It's not just about improving the leadership style. It's about creating that ripple effect that influences teams, organizations, influences performance, organizational culture, then the overall success. It it empowers to lead with that purpose, adapt to challenges because challenges are going to be there. They're not, we love that there are not, days where they're challengers, but there's always going to be challenges. And it's also inspiring others, keeping them inspired. So let me just give you just a couple of pieces to go along with that. It helps us to avoid relying on a single approach. And that may not work for all situations, but in many situations, you don't want to have a single approach. That's one of the benefits of the different leadership styles. The other benefit is that it improves the team dynamics, so to speak. Understanding leadership styles for ourselves and leaders understanding the styles within their teams both allow us to adapt to and approach to meet the needs of what the overall arching goals are, but it also boosts morale, it boosts productivity. Last but certainly not least, a benefit is when we understand the various leadership styles and we understand those styles for ourselves, we can switch between them depending on the context. Now, that would be managing a crisis. Okay, managing a crisis is going to be a little different leadership style than driving innovation or mentoring a team. So all of this comes together, but these are concrete reasons that organizations take you through personalysis, Briggs Myers, and there's one more, 360 feedback. These are all things that are done, and sometimes like, well, why do I have to do that? There's a reason why the organization, there's a whole psychology behind why organizations put their and invest in their employees to go through these things, because the leadership styles matter to the overarching achievement of the goals of the shareholder in your bigger organizations. It's about shareholder value. Understanding all of this, that's what brings the success. If you don't understand shareholder value, you're not going to achieve and you're not going to find yourself aligned. And that's even in your own business. But at the end of the day, the foundation is your leadership style and how that ties in and aligns with the other leadership styles for each and every individual situation and project, occasion, and challenges.
Very good. Very good. You give a lot of the corporate terminology. So I'm going to close us out with breaking this down. And so when I think about leadership styles as it pertains to the personal individual, your personal life, and why this is so important. In one book, I got a couple of books that I've been diving myself into because, I've been saying for the past, I want to say, think 2 or 3 years that I really want to get back into the reading and just diving and feeding myself. You feed everybody else, just like you said, as a servant leader like that. And certainly I'm always feeding everybody else, but now it's time for me to feed me. And so for me as an individual, and I'm looking at it from a personal perspective, and we're always talking about family, my family is this, my family is that. Well, guess what? In order for you to change the things that you want to change or see done with the things that you want to see done in the family, you got to think like a leader, because leaders influence, they impact, they transform behavioral patterns, right? They change the mindset of the team. And when you think about teams, you have to say teams in an organization, but family is your if you're a wife and a husband, you're the team, your team, your partnership in the business, right? And the team is your family, your siblings, your offspring, right? So you got to start thinking like, how do you take these business models and you shift them over into your family, keeping the love and the tenderness of family and relationship, but using these models for the ultimate success of your family, because it's ultimately about in leadership styles and understanding leadership styles, you begin to understand how to effectively communicate, how to influence, how to persuade, how to negotiate. Those styles, you can transfer those abilities from just being in the office to being at home, because you want to be effective in both places. Especially at home, because home is your true legacy. Home is where the heartbeat is of yourself. If home ain't right, you can't leave home right, then how you going out there and leading the rest of the world? Because that truth is going to come out, right? That truth is going to come out that you're successful at home and not. You can do it. So talk about the 360-degree feedback. That's really good because you can get feedback from your kids, your husband. That's the 360-degree. Your family members, right? That's it. Am I not right? Am I right or am I wrong here? And so one of the books that I love is Tichy's Succession Planning. I love this book. I did it for my master's degree. You see all my little sticky pen. I did it for my I love it because in the family, we should be thinking about succession planning. We're wondering, that's a passing on and a preparation to the up and coming, and we don't think about that terminology when we think about our family and thinking about an estate and stuff. That's a succession planning, right? Am I right? Am I wrong here? Am I right? Am I wrong? And so that's why these terminologies, the SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and the threats, they teach you how you're showing up and how you can change a negative to a positive, how you can take a weakness, which is viewed as negative. I don't think it's negative, but it's viewed as negative, and make it positive. You begin to know the area in which you need to develop and cultivate yourself personally. So to me, it's important for us to understand leadership styles in our personal life, so that it's your life. Own it. You own it by how you're showing up as a leader, being strategic and intentional. Leadership is family, as a wife, and how you modeling the role of a wife to your offspring, to your children, your daughters, your sons. That's leadership. Being a mom is leadership. Being a sister, if you're the big sister, is a leadership role. If you're a big cousin, if you're a big you're the auntie, so you have your nephew, your nieces. You're showing up as a leader because kids, the next generation, what you say, they watch what you do, and they learn from that. That's why we have to be so conscious and cognizant of the fact that we are all leaders, whether we are walking in a title that says leadership or not. Someone is watching you, and they are gleaning from you, and they are learning from you. And so you want to make sure, without overstressing yourself, you want to make sure that you're showing up the way that you want to be perceived. And so this has, I want to say thank you so very much. This is the top of the year for us. So I want to say thank you so very much for Teresa and Jacqueline, you showing up for us. I'm doing succession planning. I'm also looking at 4 essential ways that coaching can help executives. So I'm looking at that. That is Witherspoon and White. This is a small, quick read, but it talks about leadership, executive leadership. And one of the things that it focuses on, the roles that coaches play. Coaching for skills. This is why you need it. Example, and it's coaching for performance, coaching for development, and coaching for the executive's agenda. And that's another thing that's important, is what is your agenda? What is your agenda? That's why leadership style is so important for yourself, as well as you showing up in other areas of your life. So I just want to get one last comment from it's how you build. Yep, you got that right. And so thank you, Denise, for chiming in with us. I want to say thank you for being here and always, owning it with me. So appreciate you. And so happy New Year. Start the year off right by being strategic and intentional. We love you so very much. We are out. Take care. Be blessed.